You're looking at the mountains in the background of the Chargers training facility. We're in beautiful Costa Mesa, California, where the Saints and the Chargers have just held day one of their joint practices, a remarkably fight-free. My speculation is that the Saints are in just good moods from being 75 degrees today as opposed to normally in Metairie when it's 100. Everybody's in a good mood. You don't get in fights when you're in a good mood. Derek Carr said it was one of the cleanest joint practices he's ever been a part of. Okay, a couple of things that we saw today. First of all, off the top, I want to say we saw a lot of the ones, and that could affect how much they play in preseason game number 2. I think if we see the ones a lot in Friday, it might mean they don't play or play very little in preseason game number 2, and that would be okay. They got a ton of work today. The second thing is we saw a return of a lot of the injured guys. Now, Dennis Allen's been saying he didn't think any of these injuries were serious or would keep anybody out of the opener, but you still want to see those guys on the field, and you want to see them doing stuff and progressing, and we saw that today. We saw Andres Pete back, we saw Demario Davis back, we saw Kendre Miller back, we saw Rashid Shaheed back, we saw Cesar Ruiz back. That's a lot of guys. Now, none of them did a lot, but we're seeing positive progress, and it does lead you to believe that what Dennis Allen is saying is true. Okay, to the practice itself, what we saw. Now, there's 2 practice fields, as you can see, 2 complete 100-yard fields. On this one, which is closest to the Charger fans, it was the Charger offense and the Saints defense, and on that one, furthest away from the fans and where the few Saints fans that were here were stationed, that was the Saints offense and the Charger defense. So for this practice, I did not watch the Saints defense. I watched the Saints offense. So I do have a few things that I saw from the Saints offense. I will say this, I thought overall, if you had to say who won the day in that portion of this joint practice, I'd say I thought the Chargers were a little bit better. Not a lot better, maybe a 55-45 kind of thing, but I thought the Chargers were good. And Derwin James, number 3, their safety, was incredible. I thought he had a great day. Now, on the Saints side, some positive notes, and I'll say this too. Look, it's hard to judge offensive line play in something like this because there's no full tackling. It's just hard to make a real judgment, so I'm not going to do it. I would say use the preseason games to do that. You're looking at all the skill players in this kind of a situation. A.T. Perry, who was so inconsistent those first 2 weeks of training camp, had a great preseason game. He was terrific today. So the fact that he's stacking good days is super positive for him. I thought Kawaan Baker, who I still think is a long shot to make the roster, number 15, the wide receiver from South Alabama, I thought he had his best day of training camp, which is positive for him. Mike Thomas continues to get better and better. That's a good thing. Juwan Johnson continues to stack days and make plays with Derek Carr. You see the sort of this thing going on between the two of them, and it looks good, and they've gotten stuff done. But by far, the star of that field today was Chris Olave. He went one-on-one with Asante Samuel, the third-year cornerback for the Chargers. Samuel made a play on maybe a 10-yard sideline route, and the two of them started chirping at each other. And Olave talks more than you'd expect, and I asked several people after practice about that. Olave's such a quiet guy to the media, but everyone on the team says he is a chirper and he loves the trash talk, and you could see he and Samuel going at it trash talking, and then after that in the one-on-one he beat Samuel twice on deep routes. So Olave, maybe if you see him talking in the game, it might be a good thing because it certainly worked for him today. He got a little aggravated, he got talking, and then he made plays. He has been unbelievable this camp. Look, I've said it a couple of times, if you're in a fantasy football league, wherever Chris Olave, whatever his average draft position is, he needs to go a little higher than that because I think he's going to have a super season. Okay, that's some observations from today. Tomorrow at Friday's practice, I'm going to station myself to watch the Saints defense. We'll see if we can come up with some observations from there. It was clean work. It was honest work. That's one thing Derek Carr has said, is that the Saints DBs in Metairie will jump his routes because they know what they're doing now so well after a couple of weeks. That doesn't happen at this kind of thing, so it's honest work, more like a game. You don't know what's coming, as opposed to a practice in Metairie where both sides know what's coming. So they'll get another day of honest work on Friday. That's a look at the first day of joint practices from beautiful Orange County, California.